Great news! You've got a load of cash and can call in your loadout before the first one on the map drops and most other players have theirs. This is clearly a great advantage to have over your opponents on the rest of the map, since they won't have their preferred weapons and, almost as importantly, they won't have any of their perks. But which loadout should you run to fully capitalise on your advantage of buying an early loadout? Well, I'm going to share a couple of options with you right here. So option 1, I suggest running an Overkill loadout with the assault rifle of your choice as the first primary weapon. Although something like the Grau or the M4 are the premium choices for pretty easy to use, high damaging, good all-rounders that are quite frankly scary at mid to long ranges. I'm sure you have your own preferences for these weapons, but I suggest running something like this Grau with a monolithic suppressor, Tempest 26.4 inch Archangel barrel, Commando foregrip, 60 round mags and the Cronin Sniper Elite rear grip. I know this setup has been nerfed slightly, but it still really packs a punch, particularly at a distance. And it's this distance proficiency which makes it a great accompaniment to an SMG as your secondary. This way you have pretty much all distances covered for attacking players or throwing shots at opposing players to make them take cover so you can get out of tricky situations. There are a few great SMGs you can use, and you've probably got one ready to put straight onto an Overkill class. In case you haven't though, I'm going to suggest the MP5. With the fantastic damage and fire rate at close distances, there's a reason why this is the go-to SMG for the pros on Modern Warfare. The attachments I'd recommend are monolithic suppressor, Merc foregrip, 45 round mags, stippled grip tape and sleight of hand. These make for a great steady SMG with high mobility, with the ability to clutch up at range consistently. Outside of the weapons, the rest of the loadout should be set up for people that haven't got their loadout yet. For the tactical equipment, that means only one thing, the heartbeat sensor. Hardly anyone will have Ghost yet, so let's pick them up. For lethal equipment, I'd recommend C4, little surprise here. I was going to suggest running something like Semtex's for a more early game aggressive playstyle, but with no launcher as your secondary, you still need to be ready to take out vehicles at any moment, and C4 is great for this, along with many other scenarios such as clearing out campers and people in cover. Now on to perks for our first early game loadout. Perk 1 was a toss up between double time and EOD. Since you want to be able to move around the map quickly and be aggressive to take advantage of your superior weapons and equipment, but at the same time, you really don't want all that early game advantage to slip away with just one RPG round that someone has just found on the floor. So for this reason, I suggest running the EOD perk to limit the risk of a disaster scenario. Perk 2 of course is Overkill, as I mentioned. For later in the game, we will absolutely want the Ghost perk for when the map drops the first loadout, since people will be scanning with their heartbeat sensors and calling in UAVs by this point. But we'll just collect our loadout again on the first map loadout drop and select a class with Ghost, before picking up our weapons off the floor, essentially having Overkill, but with Ghost enabled. For perk 3, again I was weighing up two different perks, those being Amped, which allows you to swap weapons really quickly, and Battle Hardened, which reduces the effects of flashes, stuns and gas grenades. I went for Battle Hardened in the end, since much like the EOD choice, you don't want all your early game good work and advantages to be swept away from you because someone has caught you out with a stun from floor loot. Despite taking early game initiative and being aggressive with your early loadout by choosing Overkill, you still want to take enough precautions that you can get the maximum benefit from getting your loadout earlier than most other players on the map. Okay, now on to loadout option 2. Again, we're going to be running Overkill and picking up Ghost in a later map dropped loadout drop. The primary weapon on this loadout is going to be a sniper rifle. I recommend the HDR as it's got minimal distance bullet drop and is the archetypal classic sniper. The attachments I suggest are monolithic suppressor, 26.9 inch HDR Pro to really give it that strength over distance with damage range and velocity. Then we've got the tac laser, which improves aiming down sight speed and sway when aiming. For stock I run the F-Tac Champion, again improving stability and only losing aim walking speed, which is really not a big deal for snipers as you don't look towards these weapons for mobility. Finally, you want to be running the presence of Mind perk, which extends the period of time you can hold your breath. Collectively, these attachments offer a great balance of aiming down sights pretty quickly, having a steady aim with very little bullet drop. For the second primary weapon in your loadout, I again recommend an SMG. This is a particularly good setup when playing with a squad of 3 or 4, as you can really contribute to your team's presence and offer support at pretty much any distance. Having an AR as your second primary here may seem the obvious choice, but the biggest danger early on in a match, when people haven't got their loadout yet, is being caught out at close range as many MP7s and Bisons are lying around. You can of course run the MP5 class I suggested on the previous loadout, but I recommend running an SMG that can still offer some danger at a medium range, which should overcome some of your fears of not running an M4 or a Grau or something like this. The SMG I suggest is the AUG, with the attachments, monolithic suppressor, 622mm long barrel, 5MW laser for a good sprint to fire time, stippled grip tape, and the 5.56 NATO 30 round mags, which offer even more damage and range to the AUG. Altogether, these attachments make it incredible at medium and close distances. For the equipment and perks, we want to be running the same as those I mentioned in Loadout 1, so they were the heartbeat sensor, C4, EOD, Overkill and Battle Hardened, before picking up Ghost from the free map loadout drop, which drops at about 15 seconds before the first circle closes. So what you can do with both of these loadouts that I've suggested is be as aggressive or passive as you'd like, but most importantly with endgame weapons. Ideally you find a bit more cash after buying your loadout and can ping up some UAVs, since hardly anyone will have Ghost yet. You especially want to call one in when going for the map loadout drop, as this will be one of your most dangerous moments and you don't want to give up your great position in the game by being ambushed on a loadout drop. Well, that's all from me in this video. I hope it helps you increase the amount of kills you get per game in Warzone and ultimately helps you win more games. If you've got a second, give the video a like, and if you want to see more Call of Duty videos, why not subscribe? See ya!